Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today we're going to take a look at my Game Week 32 free hit draft. So I am free hitting in Game Week 32. It is a blank game week, of course, and I have 8 players blanking in my original team. So I definitely am going to free hit. For those of you who are already on this plan or on this strategy, right, I do suggest that you free hit early, activate the chip early so that you can bring in the players that you want for your Game Week 32 free hit. Right, get them into your team so that you wouldn't be priced out because of price changes, right? Because that can obviously happen. Alright, so as of now, I've already activated my chip, and I'm going to show you guys the draft that is currently in my team and how it is looking like at the moment. Of course, it is subject to a couple of changes here and there, but I'll show you guys where I'm at the moment. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and if you do, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. So as always, in a free hit, there only are a couple of games for us to target, and that is the Arsenal-Southampton game. That's definitely one that we want to go for. The Liverpool-Nottingham Forest one is also one that we definitely want to target. As for the other games, I think you could go either ways. Crystal Palace is a team that definitely has come up a little bit, and we will see a couple of Palace players here that I've picked out that I kind of want in my free hit draft, and they are currently in the first draft at the moment. A couple of other players that we can choose to go for as well is Aston Villa players, which we will see a couple of them as well, right? Because Aston Villa, of course, are doing really well, coming off a 3-0 win against Newcastle as well, right? And then, of course, Newcastle play Tottenham, right? So, of course, we may want to tailor some, make some adjustments, right, to account for that fixture, right? Whether we want Kane, whether we want Trippier or not. For now, I've still got Trippier in my team as well. Alright, so make sure to have a look at the fixtures and then see which are the ones that you want to target before actually going for these players. So the way I've set up in with this draft, I've basically gone for 3 Liverpool players, 3 Arsenal players, 1 Newcastle, 1 Tottenham, and then 2 Palace players to kind of field this starting 11, followed by a Aston Villa striker in Ollie Watkins. So I'll cover all these players in detail, and we'll talk a little bit about them one by one. So for keepers, I've gone for John Stone, who plays Everton at home, and Everson on the bench, who plays Wolves at home. Now, obviously, I'm not going to spend so much money on my bench keeper, right? So obviously, Everson is the cheapest playing keeper in the game currently. So I'm going to go for Everson on the bench. As my first choice keeper in my starting 11, I've gone for John Stone simply because Crystal Palace do look like a side that has been revived under Roy Hodgson. So definitely, John Stone has been keeping a couple of clean sheets. Guaita also doesn't seem like he's returning anytime soon, so at least for Game Week 32, I can have John Stone, and I do think like he is good for clean sheets. I haven't chosen to go for players like Alisson maybe, right, because I favor the outfielders, of course, or even Ramsdale, right, simply because for Liverpool and Arsenal, I would want the outfielders instead of a keeper. So in terms of a cheap keeper that definitely is starting and also has a good chance of a clean sheet, I think John Stone is where I'm looking at the moment. In defense, right, currently I have Trippier, Trent, and Robertson. Now, Trippier, I think I will still be a little bit afraid of going without Trippier simply because he can actually hold in any single fixture, right? Newcastle at home are also really strong. Spurs are also struggling a little bit for consistency, so there's every chance Trippier may actually keep a clean sheet, right? And then you add a couple of assists here and there, definitely a double-digit haul there. So the potential is definitely there, and if I don't go with Trippier, I will be hurt quite a bit by effective ownership. So for now, Trippier is in the team. There's Trent and Robertson as well. Now, I've chosen to go for Trent and Robertson as my double Liverpool defense, simply because in the midfield or in the forward line, I don't think there are a lot of options that we can guarantee starts for any of them, aside from Salah, who is obviously in this team, right? But Trent and Robertson, I think, are the next 2 assets that guaranteed minutes or guaranteed starts, right, for Game Week 32, right, because Liverpool are out of all the other competitions as well, and Trent and Robertson are definitely their first choice fullbacks. So against Nottingham Forest at home, I do fancy them, and if they get attacking returns, then obviously double-digit hauls there for them, right? So cover a little bit of the players on the bench before we move on to the midfield, right? On the bench, I have Andreas Pereira. Now, obviously, he is also just going to be on the bench as a good option to come in if any of my starting 11 players don't play. But Andreas, I think, is a really good option, right? Because he's only at 4.3. So he started the season at about 4.5, went up to 4.6, and then dropped to 4.3 now. But regardless, he has always been the most consistent budget pick for the whole season so far, right? And especially now, Mitrovic is out, right, suspended still, so he will probably be on penalties as well. But obviously, he's still a bench option for me. The next is Moreno. Now, Moreno is doing really well for Aston Villa, right? He could have gotten a couple of assists in the game against Newcastle, right? And those are not easy opponents, and he did really well in that game. Aston Villa also look pretty good for clean sheets now, so I think having him on the bench is definitely a decent consideration. To play Brentford away may not be the easiest game, right? But I do fancy that if he comes into starting 11, then there will be clean sheets for him there. The last defender is a really cheap defender, 3.9 Totti. He plays for Wolves. He has been getting a couple of starts, but obviously just another bench option for me to have, right? The squad value of this team is 102.1, so I can just about afford this starting 11 with these players on the bench that enable me to do so being really cheap. So in midfield, I have Eberici, Eze, Salah, Martinelli, and Saka. So talking a bit about Eze first, I think I like the look of Eze slightly more than Olise, which probably is someone that is more on a lot of people's radar. Now, not just because Eze has just come off a double-digit haul in game week 31, but more so because even in the previous game weeks when Olise was doing really well, Eze also picked up a lot of XG, right? He was looking really good, taking a lot of shots, and he's slightly better for goal threat than Olise. So because of that, I do favor Eze slightly more. Now, next up, I have Salah. Definitely going to have Salah in this game, free hit 32 team, right? He will be the third Liverpool player. And as I mentioned, I don't think I can trust any of the other midfielders or forwards from Liverpool to start 90 minutes in any given game, right? So Salah, Trent, and Robertson will probably be my Liverpool triple up. Now, Martinelli and Saka are the two Arsenal players that I've gone for in the midfield. So as you guys can see, I've opted for a three Arsenal forward line, right? Basically two midfielders and one forward in Jesus later on. And the reason why I haven't gone with maybe a Gabriel against Southampton at home, probably good for clean sheets, but the reason why I haven't gone with Gabriel or maybe Ben White, right, is simply because I think that the outfielders will score really well in this game week, right? So Martinelli and Saka. Now Martinelli, I think he justifies himself. Saka just missed a penalty. As I am recording this, Saka just missed a penalty against West Ham, right? But if I were to choose between Saka and Odegaard, I would still prefer Saka slightly more, right? Simply because he may still be on penalties, right? That is still up for debate. But at this point, I still feel like Saka is a little bit of a better asset than Odegaard, even though Odegaard just scored, right? So at this point in time, I'm going to have Martinelli and Saka as the midfielders. That could obviously change, but for now, this is where I am at. And let's take a look now at the forward line. So up front in the forward line is where we have loads of options in game week 32. There's the likes of Callum Wilson, Alexander Isak. There's also Watkins, Jesus, and Kane that you see here. There's also Ivan Toney, who plays Aston Villa as well, right? So there's loads of options basically, and the one that I think is definitely nailed in my forward line is Jesus. He has my captain's armband now. Slightly favor him a little bit more than Salah, and them playing Southampton at the Emirates, I think we could see a bloodbath there. Jesus also looks really sharp since he came back, so that's where my captain's armband is lying at this point. Probably the most nailed player in this squad is Jesus for me, right? And then there's Harry Kane and Ollie Watkins. Now, Ollie Watkins for me is a form pick. I think at this point in time, he is looking like the sharpest striker aside from Erling Haaland in the Premier League. Ollie Watkins has been doing really well and has sparked a little bit of a revival for Aston Villa. Of course, he's on penalties as well, right? So I really like the look of Ollie Watkins. And as for Harry Kane, I think you could argue that you may want to go without Kane, since if you have Trippier in your team, right, you may be cancelling out some points there. But for me, I do feel like Harry Kane could get a goal in any game, right? A penalty, a simple penalty could just give him some good points, and when he scores a goal as a forward, he always gets good bonus points for that, right? So basically, I think I will still go for Harry Kane. I still can afford him, but there's every chance that I may want to downgrade Harry Kane, maybe to a Isak, maybe to a Ivan Toney, right, to afford a more expensive midfielder, right? So at this point in time, this is how my draft is looking like. A 3-4-3 formation, John Stone in goal, Trippier, Trent, and Robertson in defense. Right in the midfield, there's Eze, Salah, Martinelli, and Saka, and then up front, Watkins, Jesus, and Kane. So as I mentioned just now, triple Liverpool and triple Arsenal. At this point, I think for free hit 32 is probably going to be which three you pick from these two teams, right? Because most of the free hit drafts will be tripled up on these two teams. As for the peripheral players, Ollie Watkins for me is probably the one that will be the most nailed out of the rest of these players. Trippier and Kane, as I mentioned, they play each other, but they are so good and so consistent this season. Can we go without them, right? And then for the last two players, there's Eze and John Stone. Also a form pick because Crystal Palace have been doing really well, right? So this is where I'm at. Of course, on the bench, lots of enablers for me that in their own right are really good budget options as well. So this is where I stand at this point in time. Let me know what you guys think of my free hit 32 first draft and how you guys' drafts are looking like if you are on a free hit 32 as well, right? But for now, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here, and I will catch you guys in more Game Week 32 content very soon. Bye bye.